this is a horrifying way to live. And then you have all of those self-proclaimed prophets, deliverance ministers, and I don't know how to call them, who basically are abusing the situation, not abusing and perpetuating and creating the situation. And they obviously represent, in the minds of so many people, spiritual authority. So when a pastor declares that someone is a witch, my goodness, you are really done with in a way. And then you have those kind of circumstances that really are nothing else but just people living in a climate of fear and superstition.
As you said, the fear is the tool that they use to manipulate. It has always been in the history of the humanity here. And fear is a big problem. So they first teach, they show God as someone that you should fear, and that's it. Not someone that you should love, adore, but fear. And then they use the name of God, of Jesus, to label these children. And then everybody will really submit themselves to this fear. They just can't avoid it. And I actually understand when even ignorant families, when they do subject themselves to this manipulation, because they do believe it. They just don't know exactly. They don't read the Bible. Whatever they hear in the church where they go, they just believe it, and that's it. So when we go there, we have prepared two things. We've been actually a few more things to use as educational material. We have prepared a little magazine called Jesus and the Children. It's very clear, very easy English, and basically talking about Jesus and the children. The passages where Jesus mentioned to his disciples, when the disciples tried to stop the children to come to him, he said, "Let they come to me." And so I will tell a little story here that is one of the most amazing situations we lived there. We were in this village where we had just visited a family who the child was labeled. The whole problem was going on. And I left that house and I asked one of the natives that was with me, I asked him, "Do you know if there are many cases in this village here?" And then he said to me, he is one of the worst places in this state, because many of those children in the orphanage came from this area here. And so I said to him, "So we're going to use the rest of this day here. We're not going to go back to where we were. Let's walk through the village." And it's really a poor place. You know, it's just like walking between the bushes, the trees, and find houses and talking to people, really. And we found a little market there where people were selling fish on the floor and some vegetables. And then I said to my friends, "Let's stand there, because I believe people will come and will gather around and we'll have the opportunity to talk to men at once." So we went there. When we started talking, someone came and said to me, "Leo, you cannot," this man came here to say to me that "you cannot speak here without asking the authorization of the chief of the village." Mm-hmm. So I said to him, "And where can I find this man?" And he pointed to the end of this market. There was a man sitting on the chair there by a car. I walked there, introduced myself, introduced my team, and said that we were missionaries from Brazil. And then a big smile came on his face, because that's one of the things that we understand why God took us to Nigeria to do this project. Even English, as everybody can see by now, is not my first language. And then the football subject, as expected, came up. Thanks God Nigeria beat Brazil a few years ago, because it makes them happy, you know, to talk to us. And then, but as soon we finished the football subject, I introduced the subject, the witchcraft problem. I said to him, "So we are here because of it. We've seen the image, we've seen what they are doing to the children in your country, and we don't believe that there is such a thing, a witch, a witch child, that we don't believe that children could be witch. The Bible is against what is going on here. Jesus is against what's going on here. The Word of God doesn't defend what you're doing here. And then he changed. That smiley face to begin with just changed, and he got stressed. And he said, if the Bible didn't say that, I wouldn't be teaching that. And of course the Bible says it. And then he started mentioning verse. And he actually said, in our village here, there are many witch children that we need to get rid of them. And then I looked at my friends, and I actually used my resource of my Portuguese language, and I said to one of them, and I said, we are not leaving this place until this pillar goes down. This man starts saying things like, doesn't the Bible says that the evil, the enemy will come dressing in lamb clothes? Doesn't he say that will be dressed like a lamb? So you look at the children, you think that they are innocent, but they have the evil inside of them. And then he mentioned that they are very disobedient. This is the evil spirit. This is a witch spirit. And then he decided to, I said to him, I just can't believe that you are linking this passage with the children. And then he mentioned another one. He asked one of his friends to get a Bible for him, and they opened the door of that car. Came a little suitcase from inside there. He opened the suitcase, got a Bible that was like an idol, shining. Seriously, I've never had a beautiful Bible like he had. And he got the Bible, and he opened on the passage on Timothy. I want to read it for you so you understand how they twist it. He read 5 verses from the Bible. In 2 Timothy chapter 3, he starts reading. But mark this, there will be terrible times in the last days. People will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, abusive, disobedient to their parents, ungrateful, unholy, without love, unforgiving, slanderous, without self-control, brutal, not lovers of the good, rash, conceited, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness but deny its power. Have nothing to do with them. And the version that he was reading says, keep away from such as this. And he was using this passage when he gets this part, one says, disobedient to their parents, so children. That's how he sees it. He doesn't think that an adult could be disobedient to his parents. And he goes to the end of the 5th verse and says, keep away from such as this, using it to explain why they were casting out the children. So my friend Marcelo, he got the Bible as well and starts. By that time, we didn't need his authorization to talk to the community anymore. There were a crowd around us, listening to the conversation, very close to us. A load of 30, 40 people around us, among children, teenagers, adults. And then Marcelo said, people, I want you to pay attention here. And he read again the 5 verses, but then he carried on. He read 2 more verses and he said, they are the kind of whom they walk on their ways. These men, they walk from home to home, seducing women, loading down with sins, and are swayed by all kinds of evil desires, always learning but never able to acknowledge the truth. So he's very clear. These men, they walk from home to home, seducing women, who attend to their desires. And then he called a little child to the middle of the group, and he asked the people. By that time, I looked at, well, actually he asked first. He asked to the people, "Do you believe that this child here could seduce a woman?" And everybody was quiet. They looked straight to the chief, and he was in shock. I looked at his face. He was like that. He had never seen that verse in the Bible. And then my friend asked the second time, "Do you believe that this child could seduce a woman?" And everybody decided to answer, "No." And then he said, "So, of course he can't, because this is something that only a man, a grown-up, would be able to do. And this passage is talking about that. So don't use it as an excuse to cast out, to abandon your children. This is not talking about your children. Find another excuse, but not this one." And then there was a silence in the place. Completely silent. Even with so many children, it was silent. And then I stood up and I got to the magazine, Jesus and Children, and I started mentioning to the people. One of my friends started giving to the adults these magazines, and then I started mentioning to them all those verses that Jesus refers to the children, and start basically preaching that, but just Jesus and the children, what Jesus thinks, how he loves, how he protects, how he cares. And in the middle, while I was still speaking, a man jumped out from the middle of the crowd. From the middle of the crowd, he came to my side. He didn't offer, say, "Can I translate you to the local dialect here?" Because some people can't speak English. He didn't say anything. He just jumped out. He's a gentleman. He's 40 or 50. He jumped there, stood by me, and while I was speaking, he was translating me to the local dialect, so everybody could understand what I was saying. At the end, when I stopped, the chief stood up from his chair, and he said something. He looked at his people and said, "From this day on, we will not call children witches in this village anymore, in our community. From this day on, there is no witch children in this village." And this man stood up and he asked us to pray with the community that was there gathering. And I asked him to promise that they would never allow people to label a child as a witch in that village anymore. And they would help us in the villages around to enlighten them as well about it. We left a few magazines with them, a few gospels. And we left there with such a peace in our heart.
Well, thank you very much for this wonderful interview. Not about the wonderful things, but definitely wonderful because you have shared something important about Nigeria. And I think that our friends who are watching these programs have been moved. And I'm sure that some people will get in touch with you. And I'm looking forward to another opportunity, maybe in a couple of months or so, to have another interview where we can make some kind of an update and see what has happened between now and then.